The great hall of the Voxari Council had never felt so empty. Commander Thielen stood before the massive viewing screen that showed the burning remains of what used to be their 12th colony world. The orange flames still danced across the planet's surface, visible even from space. Her people were dying, and she was running out of options. The Corvan Empire had been unstoppable. Their black warships moved like death itself through Vaxari space, turning thriving worlds into graveyards. Every time the Vaxari tried to fight back, they lost more ships, more people, more hope. Thielen's own brother had died defending the mining colony at Ceres Prime. His ship had lasted exactly 14 seconds against a Corvan destroyer. She walked to the communications console, her three-fingered hands shaking as she prepared to send what might be their last message to the galaxy. The other council members watched in silence. They all knew this was their final chance. If no one answered this call, the Vaxari would join the long list of species the Corvans had wiped from existence. "Begin transmission," Thielen said, her voice barely above a whisper. The signal went out into the darkness of space, carrying with it the desperate hope of an entire civilization. Any civilization receiving this transmission, we are the Vaxari Federation. Our people face extinction. We require immediate assistance. We have children, families, entire worlds that will die if someone does not help us. Please, if you have any compassion in your hearts, help us. For 3 days, nothing happened. The Vaxari continued their losing battle against the Corvan fleet. They lost 2 more outposts and a medical station. Thielen barely slept, checking the communications array every few hours for any sign of a response. Then, on the 4th day, something changed. The communications officer, a young Vaxori named Kess, suddenly sat up straight at his station. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from outside our solar system." Thielen rushed to the console. Her heart was beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. "Put it through." The voice that came through the speakers was unlike anything she had ever heard. It was calm, confident, and somehow reassuring. "This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your distress signal and are currently en route to your coordinates. Please stand by for further communication." The entire council chamber erupted in cheers. Kess was crying with relief. Thielen felt her legs go weak as the weight of desperation finally lifted from her shoulders. Someone had answered. Someone was coming to help them. "Send a response," she ordered. "Tell them we are grateful beyond words, and ask how we can assist them." The reply came quickly. Admiral Morrison's voice was professional, but warm. "Commander Thielen, we understand your situation is critical. We will arrive in your system in approximately 72 hours. In the meantime, we need you to provide us with detailed information about enemy positions, ship configurations, and tactical patterns. This will help us coordinate our relief efforts most effectively." Thielen couldn't believe how organized these humans sounded. Most species would have asked for safe passage or demanded payment before offering help. But these Terrans seemed genuinely committed to saving her people. Over the next 2 days, the Vaxari shared everything they knew about the Corvan Empire: ship designs, weapon capabilities, patrol routes, command structures. The humans asked detailed questions about Corvan tactics and seemed particularly interested in how the enemy treated prisoners and civilians. When the human fleet finally arrived, Thielen watched through the viewing screen with amazement. Their ships were beautiful, but deadly looking, like silver predators sliding through space. They moved with a precision that spoke of advanced technology and serious military training. Admiral Morrison opened a direct communication channel. His face appeared on the screen, showing a middle-aged human with kind eyes and a confident smile. "Commander Thielen, it's good to finally meet you face to face. We're here to help." For the first time in months, Thielen allowed herself to believe that her people might actually survive. Captain Lisa Grant had seen plenty of alien ships in her 15 years with the Terran Defense Fleet. But the Corvin dreadnoughts were something else entirely. They looked like floating cities of death, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack a planet in half. From the bridge of her destroyer, the Phoenix, she counted them slowly. Each one was 3 times the size of her ship. "Lieutenant Stevens, give me those numbers again," she said, not taking her eyes off the tactical display. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Danny Stevens, ran his fingers across the scanning console. The young man had joined the fleet straight from the academy, and this was his first real combat situation. His voice was steady, but Grant could hear the tension underneath. "I'm reading 47 Corvin vessels in the primary engagement zone, Captain. 22 dreadnoughts, 15 cruisers, and 10 smaller escort ships." Grant nodded and opened the fleet communication channel. "Admiral Morrison, this is Phoenix. We have confirmed visual on enemy positions. 47 hostiles spread across the outer system." Admiral Morrison's voice came back immediately, as calm as if he were ordering coffee. "Understood, Phoenix. All ships, maintain formation Delta 7, begin deployment of kinetic platforms." The order sent a chill of excitement through Grant's crew. Formation Delta 7 wasn't a defensive position. It was an attack formation, designed to punch through enemy lines with maximum force. She had trained for this scenario dozens of times, but never thought she would actually use it. Meanwhile, on the Vaxari flagship, Commander Thielen was listening to every word the humans said. She had learned basic Terran language during the past few days, but their military terms were still confusing. Her communications officer, Kess, was working frantically to translate everything for the bridge crew. "What are kinetic platforms?" asked her second-in-command, a veteran warrior named Victor. Kess looked uncertain. "I think they are some kind of weapon system, sir, but I'm not sure what kind." Thielen watched the human ships on her display screen. They were moving with incredible precision, like a school of fish that had practiced the same dance 1,000 times. Each vessel knew exactly where it needed to be, and they all moved together as one unit. "Their ships are moving into attack positions," reported her sensor operator, a nervous young Vaxari, who kept checking his readings twice. "Excellent," Thielen replied, feeling a surge of hope. "They're preparing to drive off the Corvins. Look how organized they are. These humans must be experienced warriors." But something was bothering her. In every rescue operation she had ever heard of, the arriving ships would set up defensive positions around the colonies that needed protection. They would create a shield between the attackers and the innocent civilians. That was how civilized species conducted warfare. The human ships weren't doing that at all. Instead of spreading out to protect Vaxari worlds, they were grouping together and moving directly toward the Corvin fleet. It was almost like they were planning to attack rather than defend. "Kess," she said, "are you sure you're translating their communications correctly?" The young officer double-checked his translation matrix. "Yes, Commander. They keep using words like engagement zone and target acquisition, but those must be rescue terms, right?" On the Phoenix, Captain Grant was receiving her final orders from Admiral Morrison. "Lisa, take your squadron and hit their left flank. Tyler will take the right side with his cruisers. I want those dreadnoughts confused and scattered before they can organize a proper response." "Understood, Admiral," Grant replied. She turned to her crew. "All right, people. This is what we trained for. Stevens, I want continuous targeting solutions on every Corvin ship in our sector. Weapons officer, charge all plasma cannons and prepare kinetic rounds." The bridge hummed with activity as her crew prepared for battle. Grant felt the familiar rush of adrenaline that came before combat. This was going to be different from anything they had done before, but she trusted her ship and her people. Back on the Vaxari flagship, Thielen was growing more confused by the minute. The human ships were now accelerating directly toward the Corvin fleet, but they weren't broadcasting any warnings or demands for surrender. They weren't even trying to negotiate. "Commander," said Victor quietly, Are we sure these humans understand that this is a rescue mission? Thielen didn't have an answer. Something felt wrong, but she couldn't figure out what it was. The explosion lit up space like a miniature sun. Commander Thielen watched in stunned silence as the first Corvin dreadnought simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a massive warship that had terrorized her people for months. The next moment, there was nothing but glowing debris and superheated gas expanding into the void. "What just happened?" whispered Victor, her second in command. His voice was barely audible on the bridge. Before anyone could answer, another flash erupted across their screens. Then another, and another. In less than 30 seconds, 5 Corvin ships had been completely destroyed, not damaged, not disabled, completely erased from existence. Lieutenant Colonel James Parker was coordinating the assault from his battle station aboard the heavy cruiser Retribution. His fingers danced across the tactical display as he marked targets for his squadron. 20 years of military service had taught him that the key to winning any battle was speed and precision. "Target their command vessels first," he ordered his weapons teams. "We want their fleet scattered and confused before they can organize any kind of response. Focus fire on the largest ships." His crew responded with the efficiency of a war machine. Plasma cannons charged to full power. Kinetic weapons locked onto their targets. Within seconds, another Corvin dreadnought exploded in a brilliant fireball. On the Vaxari flagship, Thielen was beginning to realize that something was terribly wrong. She had expected to see a battle between the humans and the Corvins. She had imagined ships, trading fire, maneuvering for position, maybe even negotiating a ceasefire. This wasn't a battle at all. This was something else entirely. "Commander," said Kess, her communications officer. His voice was shaking. "I'm intercepting human tactical channels. They're not talking about rescue operations anymore. They keep using phrases like pest elimination and threat neutralization." Thielen felt her blood turn cold. "What do you mean? Show me the translations." Kess pulled up the communication logs on his screen. The words made no sense in the context of a rescue mission. The humans were discussing the Corvin fleet the same way exterminators might talk about removing dangerous insects from a building. Meanwhile, Captain Grant was reporting her squadron's progress to Admiral Morrison. Her voice was calm and professional, but there was an edge of satisfaction in it. "Admiral, we've confirmed that Corvin boarding doctrine includes the use of biological weapons against civilian populations. Based on their tactical databases, they've been systematically eliminating entire species for over 2 centuries. Morrison's response came immediately. "Understood, Captain. In that case, I'm recommending we classify this as a Category 5 extinction event. All ships, you are weapons-free. No survivors." The words hit the Vaxari bridge like a physical blow. Thielen stared at the translation screen, reading the human commander's orders over and over again. No survivors. They weren't planning to defeat the Corvin fleet. They weren't planning to drive them away or negotiate their surrender. They were planning to kill every single one of them. "Sir," stammered another bridge officer, "the humans aren't trying to rescue us. They're trying to wipe out the entire Corvin species." Victor turned to look at Thielen with wide, frightened eyes. "Commander, what have we done? What kind of beings did we call for help?" On her screen, Thielen watched as human ships moved through the Corvin formation like sharks through a school of fish. Their weapons fired with deadly accuracy. Every shot found its target. Every target died instantly. The Corvins tried to fight back, but their return fire seemed pitiful compared to the human assault. The most terrifying part wasn't the destruction itself. It was how methodical the humans were about it. They weren't angry or emotional. They weren't screaming war cries or making dramatic speeches. They were simply eliminating what they saw as a problem, the same way someone might remove a virus from a computer system. Lieutenant Colonel Parker's voice crackled over the human communication channels. All units, maintain firing patterns. Don't let any of them escape to warn other Corvin fleets. We want a complete information blackout. Captain Grant added her own tactical update. Confirmed. Our intelligence indicates the Corvins have been using terror tactics for generations. Species like this represent a permanent threat to galactic stability. Better to solve the problem permanently now. Thielen finally understood the horrible truth. Earth hadn't sent a rescue fleet to save the Vaxari. They had sent an extermination force to eliminate what they saw as a dangerous pest. The Corvins had been classified as a threat to be destroyed, not an enemy to be defeated. "Oh, ancestors help us," she whispered. "We didn't call for help. We called for executioners." Major Kelly Collins watched her tactical screen with the cold efficiency of someone who had done this job many times before. The last few Corvin ships were trying desperately to escape, their engines glowing white-hot as they pushed beyond safe limits. It wouldn't matter. Her boarding teams had already done their work. Status report on the captured vessels. She called to her intelligence officer. Lieutenant Tom Bradley looked up from his data terminal. "All 3 ships have been fully processed, Major. We've downloaded their entire database systems, navigation, records, and communication logs. The information is extensive." Collins nodded. The boarding operations had gone perfectly. Her Marines had swept through the Corvin ships like ghosts, stunning the crews and securing their computer systems before anyone could delete the critical data. Now they knew everything about the Corvin Empire's operations, including things that Vaxari had never suspected. She opened a direct channel to Admiral Morrison. "Admiral, intelligence confirms what we suspected. The Corvins have been conducting systematic genocide for over 2 centuries. We're looking at multiple species, completely eliminated, billions of casualties across dozens of star systems." Morrison's voice came back without any emotion at all. It was the same tone he might use to discuss the weather or ask about lunch. "Understood, Major. Continue with Protocol 7. Protocol 7. Collins had hoped she would never hear those words in an actual combat situation. It was the most extreme measure in Earth's military doctrine, reserved for species that posed an existential threat to galactic civilization. Once Protocol 7 was authorized, there could be no half measures, no mercy, no second chances. On the Vaxari flagship, Commander Thielen was listening to every human transmission she could intercept. Her translator, Kess, was working around the clock to decode their military language, but what he was finding made no sense in the context of a rescue operation. Commander Kess said, his voice trembling, "I'm picking up a transmission from one of their ships. The translation is ... disturbing." The voice that came through the speakers belonged to Colonel Robert Hayes, speaking from somewhere aboard the human vessel Vengeance. "Command, this is Hayes. We've successfully extracted the complete navigation database from the captured Corvin vessels. We now have precise coordinates for their home world and all major colony systems." There was a pause, then Hayes continued with the same matter-of-fact tone. "Recommend full sterilization of all Corvin worlds to prevent cultural contamination of neighboring systems. Their military doctrine shows they view genocide as an acceptable tool of expansion. This cannot be allowed to spread." Thielen felt her legs go weak. They weren't just planning to destroy the Corvin fleet. They were planning to destroy the entire Corvin civilization. Another voice joined the conversation, this one belonging to Captain Rebecca Rodriguez from the ship Thunderbolt. "Confirmed, Hayes. Our analysis shows that species which practice systematic genocide represent an existential threat to galactic stability. According to Earth doctrine, complete elimination is the only acceptable response." "Wait," said Victor. Thielen, second in command. "Did she just say Earth doctrine? This isn't a rescue mission at all. This is standard human military policy." Kess was frantically working to decode more transmissions. What he found made the situation even more terrifying. Commander, I'm seeing references to something called First Contact Protocol for Hostile Species. It appears that when humans encounter a civilization that practices genocide, they automatically classify them for complete extermination. The implications hit Thielen like a physical blow. The humans hadn't come to save the Vexari out of compassion or duty. They had come because the Corvan Empire had triggered some kind of automatic response in human military doctrine. Earth had protocols for dealing with species like the Corvans, and those protocols were apparently very simple. Find them, study them, then eliminate them completely. Major Collins was coordinating the final phase of the operation from her command center. Her voice was calm and professional as she spoke to her team leaders. All units, prepare for Phase 2 operations. We have confirmation that the Corvan Empire maintains 17 major worlds and 43 minor colonies. Full sterilization protocols are now in effect. One of her junior officers, Lieutenant Amanda Foster, looked up from her station. Major, the intelligence data shows there are approximately 8 billion Corvans spread across their empire. Are we really going to... Collins? Cut her off with a look. Lieutenant, the Corvans have eliminated 12 entire species in the past 50 years alone. Their own records show they've killed over 40 billion innocent beings. This isn't about revenge. It's about preventing them from killing 40 billion more. The young officer nodded, but Thielen could see the uncertainty in her eyes. Even the humans seemed to understand the magnitude of what they were about to do. Commander, whispered Kess, I think we made a terrible mistake. We didn't call for help. We accidentally triggered Earth's extermination protocol for dangerous species, and now we're watching them work. Thielen stared at the tactical display, where human ships were methodically hunting down the last Corvan vessels. Not a single enemy ship had escaped. Not one Corvan would survive to warn their homeworld. The humans had turned their rescue request into a death sentence for an entire civilization. 18 hours. That's how long it took for the Corvan Empire to disappear from the galaxy forever. Commander Thielen sat in her command chair, staring at reports that seemed impossible to believe. The tactical displays showed nothing but empty space where the Corvan fleet had been. 47 warships, gone. 3 military stations that had terrorized Vaxari space for decades, reduced to floating debris. And according to the intercepted human communications, something far worse had happened beyond their system. The humans had found the Corvan homeworld. Her communications officer, Kess, was still monitoring human channels. His face had gone pale hours ago and hadn't recovered its color. Commander, he said quietly, I'm receiving final status reports from the human fleet. They're talking about complete planetary sterilization. Thielen closed her eyes. She had asked for help to save her people, and somehow that simple request had triggered the complete destruction of an entire species. 8 billion Corvans had been alive yesterday morning. Now, according to the clinical reports coming from human ships, there were none left anywhere in the galaxy. The communication panel chimed with an incoming transmission. Admiral Morrison's face appeared on the screen, looking as calm and professional as he had during their first conversation. He could have been calling to discuss trade agreements or weather patterns. Commander Thielen, this is Admiral Morrison. The threat to your people has been neutralized. We'd like to discuss establishing formal diplomatic relations with the Federation. Thielen found herself struggling to speak. How do you respond to someone who had just committed genocide on your behalf? How do you thank them? How do you even begin to process what had happened? Admiral Morrison, she finally managed, her voice barely steady. We thank you for your assistance. Morrison smiled, and the expression was genuinely warm. Earth values peaceful neighbors, Commander. The Corvans' actions made them incompatible with civilized space. Their systematic elimination of other species could not be allowed to continue. We look forward to a long and productive relationship with your people. The way he said it made Thielen's skin crawl. Morrison wasn't boasting about his victory or showing any signs of regret about the massive loss of life. He was simply explaining a business decision. The Corvins had been a problem, so Earth had solved the problem permanently. In the background, she could hear other human officers coordinating their departure. Lieutenant Tom Wilson's voice came through clearly as he transmitted reports back to Earth Command. Survey complete. Local space secured. Recommend establishment of sector defense grid to monitor for additional hostile species in this region. Additional hostile species. The phrase sent a chill through Thielen's entire body. The humans weren't just planning to leave and forget about this sector of space. They were planning to watch it, to monitor every species in the area for signs of behavior they considered unacceptable. Admiral Thielen said carefully, "What happens now? To us, I mean." To the Vaxxari. Morrison's expression didn't change. "Now, you rebuild, Commander. You restore your colonies, expand your territory, develop your technology. Earth will provide technical assistance and trade opportunities. All we ask is that you maintain peaceful relations with your neighbors and report any aggressive species you might encounter." The unspoken message was clear. Stay peaceful, stay helpful, and Earth would be a valuable ally. But step out of line. Start behaving like the Corvins, and the Vaxxari would face the same fate as the human fleet prepared to depart. Captain Lisa Grant was filing her final mission reports from the bridge of the Phoenix. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Danny Stevens, was reviewing the engagement statistics with the detached interest of someone analyzing a training exercise. Total enemy casualties, 100%. Stevens reported 0 human losses. Mission parameters exceeded expectations. Grant nodded. Make sure to note in the report that the Vaxxari were fully cooperative throughout the operation. Command will want to know they're suitable for long-term alliance status. Suitable for alliance status. Another phrase that made Thielen realize how dramatically her world had changed. The Vaxxari weren't just survivors of the Corvin War anymore. They were test subjects, being evaluated by a species that could erase entire civilizations with casual efficiency. Victor, her second-in-command, spoke what everyone on the bridge was thinking. "Commander, what kind of beings have we allied ourselves with? They just killed 8 billion people, and they're talking about it like they removed a computer virus." Thielen watched the human ships disappear into hyperspace, their sleek forms vanishing into the stars. The galaxy suddenly felt much larger and much more dangerous than it had before. Somewhere out there, Earth was watching, monitoring, deciding which species deserved to survive and which ones needed to be eliminated. "I don't know, Victor," she said quietly, "but I know one thing for certain. We never, ever want to end up on their bad side." The Vaxxari were safe. Their colonies would be rebuilt. Their people would prosper. And they would enjoy the protection of the most terrifyingly efficient military force the galaxy had ever seen. But they would never again sleep soundly, knowing that their survival depended entirely on staying in the good graces of a species that considered genocide a reasonable solution to political problems. The stars looked different now, beautiful, but deadly, just like their new human allies.